What's up, dudes? I'm under the car today. I'm going to show you why. All right, so last episode we got the fuel pump hanger in, and we undid these hoses from inside of there. Today we got to remove these hoses, and they go up to the hard lines here, so we'll have to undo the clamps that are here. We'll have to cut, or I think we got to cut. We'll find out. I don't know if it's flared anywhere. It might be. We'll have to cut these lines and get our fittings on there so that we can build our AN hoses and get them on here. So let me get these off, and I think there's still fuel in the line a little bit because it dripped on my face earlier. Great. But anyway, we'll get this done and then we'll start working towards the front of the car. So now next thing we got to do is we got to cut the tiny little flares off of here so that we can get, hold up, let me grab it. So we can get these connectors on here. These are 5/16 to 6 AN, and these are basically going to slip on there, and then we'll tighten it down and be good to go. And then we'll be able to run our line over to our fuel pump, which you can't see it, but they're back there. Okay, cool. Let's get to it. One thing I want to mention is when you go cut the lines, you'll want obviously the smallest cutter you can get, but you see the rollers on this one are just straight rollers. I'm talking these down here. When you look at one of these bigger ones, they'll have a little notch or a cutout. This is for cutting flares, like right up against the back of the flare. This one's also got it on there, so you can see it's got that notch or the cutout. So you would place your flare right inside of that groove, and then your cutting wheel would cut right behind the flare. So that'll save you as much tubing as possible. So I'm going to try to get this one in here because it's the smallest one of the bunch I've got, or what seems to be the smallest one of the bunch I got. But if not, I'll resort to this little guy. This is what I'm talking about right here. You see how I've got that flare right in that notch? Now my cutting wheel is literally right behind the flare. This one's going to be harder. I'll probably have to undo the bracket that's back here, but let me get this one cut off, and it's just rotate about 3 times, and then tighten it up a little bit, and then just keep working it until you're done. Real exciting. All right, so I got the flare cut off. You can see how close right behind that flare I got. And you can also see that we got to get a deburring tool in there on the line in the car to get that little burr off, and then we'll sand the outside, the OD of the tube, so that way our fitting, this guy right here, will go on nice and clean because it's got a little ferrule. It's very similar to water lines if you've ever worked with water lines. But we've got this little ferrule here that we got to slide over the tubing. Get this on first, slide this, and then put our fitting on it. So let me get the other one cut, and then I'll show you how this goes together. So this is a deburring tool here. You can see just the tip here. It's like a little cutting edge, a knife or whatever, but we're going to get inside of the tube. Okay, we're going to work that around. Work better if the line was secure, but you start seeing that little piece of metal I'm rolling around, and it probably fell into the line, but that's okay because we can, oh, there it is. I got it. I'll just wipe that off. There we go. What is this, magnetic? Jeez. But we're basically trying to clean the edge, the inside diameter of these tubing, so that we don't have a burr there that'll affect the connection of our fitting, and it'll somewhat, very minute, affect our flow of fuel. Oh, I need to re-strap these on there so I can actually get on them. Anyway, that's what it does, deburring tool. I'm going to go ahead and do this one, and then I'm going to sand the outside of this next once I finish deburring this crap. There it is. I'm going to take some 600 grit and I'm just going to sand probably all the way to where it says feed right there. Clean these up, and that way we can get a nice good seal on the, I need 2 hands for this, on the fitting. So I'll get these sanded up. Alright, so I got them sanded down, and then I've just slipped the back nut on here just to see if this would be enough, and I think it'll be enough. Then on this one, hopefully it's also enough. I don't want to straighten this out anymore, but most of the gripping is going to be done up front anyway. So we'll get our, where'd it go? Hello, there it is. So we'll get this on. Then we got our ferrule. Slide that on. Oh yeah, that's gonna be plenty. Okay. Or maybe not. Because we need to get this in. Okay. Jam it in there. And we're gonna thread, yeah, we're threading the actual fitting, or the boss, in, putting pressure. So you see this isn't really moving too much forward, but that's gonna work. Okay. I need 3 hands. Or some wrenches. Wrenches would probably be good. Alright, I got them in. I just made sure to turn the actual boss into this back nut. So that way I knew that it was protruding far enough. And I mean, they're rigid on there, but we'll pressure test these before we actually, start using them. Probably to like 60 psi or something like that. They're not going to see anything higher than that anyway. But we'll pressure test and make sure that they hold. And I tell you what, these ICT aluminum billet wrenches, man, they came in clutch. They fit in here perfectly. So you can get in there and then you rotate and get another angle. Perfect. All right, looking from inside the trunk, you can see one of the fittings right there. And then we're going to line it up with these fittings here. I'm going to show you how to build these hoses, or how I build these hoses. I use another piece of, this is just like rubber hose, to measure my distance. So it's pretty short. I went ahead and marked it on here, and then you can just wipe it off and measure your next one. To this marking, we're going to remove about 1 inch. And that is because of the distance that the fitting here goes to where the actual B-nut is. So we're going to shorten this distance by about 1 inch right there. So we'll just call it right there. Okay, so that's the length that we're going to cut our hose to, because our fittings add on about 1/2 inch on each side. So we'll take this off just for reference. We'll find our mark. There's our mark. Okay, so we'll go from there to there. Use a knife. Okay, we'll just take a piece, set that right in the middle. Then tightly wrap it, putting some tension on it. And there's multiple ways to cut these. A lot of people use the cutoff wheel and just zap it. I've been using these Southwire cable cutters. All right, and they work just fine. Okay, we'll pressure test these everything. It'll be all right. So I'll come in right in the center. I'll do a crunch that way, then we'll come at it the other way, do another crunch, come back, and finish it off. Sometimes you'll have a few little stragglers, no worries, just give it another cut, and it's good to go. So let's look at the inside of this, and you can tell it's mangled, but that's fine. It's all right. It's plastic. We'll just take, where'd they go? Okay, this will get reshaped, and we'll take some needle nose, real small needle nose, work them in there. Okay, you can work these back out. Look at that. Square. It's not crooked or anything. The pinching didn't affect it. It's all right. No worries. All right, we can take our fitting. Slides right in. Perfect. Okay, the sealing, it's not going to seal all the way up front here. This isn't where it's sealing. All right, it's sealing further inside. So we just want a square cut here. All right, nice and square. That's what we want. So now we'll take our tape off, or you know what, before we take our tape off, we'll insert our shell here. The tape will help us a little bit. Kind of work it back in there. All right, so now we're past. Now we can take our tape off. Okay, the nylon braiding will want to come up, but if you pull away this way, you won't pull it back and completely mess it up. Okay, these right here, we can just trim them up. Okay, there we go. That should be fine. Next thing we need to do is we need to get our olive in there, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, now you're going to want to get it around your PTFE and get the braiding, the metal braiding and the nylon braiding on the outside. All right, but you can just work these, kind of give them a little twist here and there. And then if you see inside, we got some braiding that's trying to go in there. We don't want that. So you can take it off and then rework it on to a different angle. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay. Yep, that's gonna work. And then we'll just push this down on the surface here. Kind of work it back and forth a little bit. So get a little silicone on this. Too much. Perfect. Okay, we'll get it in there and then seat it down all the way, just like that. Okay, and then you can even take this and push down. That'll make sure that everything's squared up. Last thing to do is to bring your nut up here, rotate it. It's like you're threading it, even though there's no threads yet. That's going to work all those frays down and into a spot where they'll sit. And then we'll spray some more PTFE or some silicone here, just to lubricate everything up. We're actually going to put this in the vise, so let me move you guys over and then we'll get this thing tightened down. On our aluminum jaws here, to protect everything, right there. So now you can work this guy down, just putting pressure downward. May help to put another wrench on top. Push down. I think we're started. There we go. So what's nice about these, they got these holes. They're handy. Okay, and we want to close this gap as much as we can. Oh man, this one's hard. Hold on. I got something to help. Oh, it's not going to work. Yes, it is. All right, here, let me show you some real quick. Vim makes this wrench extender, WE15. It's got this at the end. Okay, we're gonna get in here. We're gonna go like that. Huh? Except I got this backwards. There we go. We're gonna put that in there. And that's gonna give us our leverage. Easy peasy. I like to line up the flats if possible. Okay. Let's take a look at this. And you're going to get some marring, but oh well. So there's one of them. That's pretty close. You'll probably get it a little further, but I bet you that'll test just fine. Before we finish our line, we got to print off our little return label with a label maker. And then you're just going to stick on your label on one side and the other. That way you get more. Doesn't matter where you position, you'll still be able to read it. Then we're going to take some clear shrink tubing and put that around there. Heat it up. Melt it. Good to go. Alright, let's pressure test this guy now that we've got both ends done up. So I got a little adapter here. It's just an airline adapter. Put that on one side. Okay, that'll do. I have a check valve. So I'll use a check valve. We're just going to use an air hose with a gauge here at the end. It's just a regulator with a gauge. Hook this guy up, and we'll increase the pressure. We'll go to 80. So we're at 80 psi, which is about double of what the supply or the feed line would see. But this is just a return, and there's no put it up to the microphone here. There's nothing, basically. That's what I'm saying. We can even, oh no, that takes it all off. There's no check valve in here. Oh. That was fun. I pulled on this guy at the same time as I was putting that one in. Shot the hose. Okay, but we ain't bleeding down. There's no leaks. I can dunk this in water or put some soapy water all around this stuff. It ain't leaking. All right, I can take this thing up to probably 1,000 psi and it ain't gonna leak. So we're good to go. All right, so I got my first line here and I've labeled it feed on both sides because that's gonna come off our feed here. So I'm gonna feed this that way. See what I did there? Okay. Put a little silicone on there. And we'll take that in there. Bring this in. Okay, I'm just gonna snug it up a little bit. Or we'll leave it loose so that way we can mess around with it in the bottom. And then we'll tighten it up after we get the angle of the dangle. We can tell by the way that it is because it says feed right on it. So we'll get that in there and I'll get that turned in and then we'll start working on the return side. All right, we'll get our return line in with the return going that way. Then we'll get this guy started here. Okay, so now we can see our return line is just chilling right here. We got our feed and our return. Then our labels are back there, and then I've got it clamped up to there, so it's good to go. This other line is the vent, and it actually goes over to, so it goes to that valve right there. That's a fuel check valve, and then it goes all the way up to the front. But I don't know what to do with that yet. We'll figure it out later on. For now, we'll just leave it. If it becomes an issue, then we'll address it, but it hasn't been an issue so far, so I'm sure it'll be fine. You guys gotta check these zip ties out. They've got like this rubber on the zip tie so it doesn't cut into stuff. They're made by, where is it? Focus. Lockrite. They're called grip lock ties, and they're reusable. They got this little tab so you can reuse it. The car had this old one on here, very similar. It's got the little tab to reuse, but it's, 30 years old. So I'm going to go ahead and put one of these on here, and that's going to go right in there. Focus. Grab those 3 lines together, and we'll be good to go. Now that this is all done, we can go ahead and close all this up. Put this through here. Looking in the engine bay, we can see our hard lines coming in right down there. One of them goes right into this fuel filter, and then you can see the other one right there, the clamp. That's the return. So that goes up into here. We'll be deleting on all of this because I've got new stuff for it. We also got new stuff going in right here on the strut tower. So we'll have a regulator, fuel filter, and a flex fuel or ethanol sensor going in somewhere in this vicinity. So I've got a new, well, new to me, this is a used radium fuel rail. We've got some brand new FIC injectors. These are 1000 cc. So that should be plenty for what I'm looking to do. We've got a fuel sensor, flex fuel sensor there. Some connectors for the fuel sensor. A new to me, as you can see it's used. Boy, guy really scratched it up. But anyway, one of my buddies was upgrading to larger. This is dash 6. I think he was going to a dash 10 or 12 or something. I don't know. He was looking to make a lot of power. So I got this one real cheap like. The fuel rail, like I said, is secondhand, but I got all the other stuff in here. I did have to buy another orb fitting here, but no big deal. And then I've got a, what is this? Turbo Smart fuel pressure regulator with a dash 6, or came with dash 6s on it already. All I got to do is, on here I'll be running fuel pressure, so I'll pull this guy off and put in a sensor for it and everything like that. And actually I noticed that this had been leaking. You see there's a little fluid there. This is actually just filled with glycerin. And I mean, it doesn't look like it lost much, but if I need to top it off or anything, I can just pick up some glycerin or see if somebody has some glycerin nearby and top that off. But that's all I got. I appreciate the few of you. 1, 2, looks like 3 of you there watching, sticking around to the end, hopefully. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. Maybe watching some of the videos that pop up here later on. And, hey, brother, really appreciate that. But I'll save all of this stuff for next episode. And might not put the fuel rail on yet. My lights are doing something crazy. I might have to remove that upper plenum. Might have to remove this plenum here to do some work down under it. I don't know yet, okay? But we'll start taking all that stuff off, and see you guys next time. Peace.